I want to ask you a hard question. Many of the conservatives that I talk to now, small c conservatives, are beginning to push back against the climate apocalypse mongers, but they're still doing it pretty apologetically. And so, I've been looking at the data on carbon dioxide production for about 15 years, trying to sort it out. And my view as a scientist who's capable of assessing data is that if we were taking a dispassionate look at the situation, one that wasn't informed by the Club of Rome overpopulation doomsayers, for example, that we would conclude that by historical standards over periods of millions of years instead of thousands, the planet is actually in a pretty severe carbon dioxide drought, and that the influx of carbon dioxide from the fossil fuel industry into the atmosphere is actually a net ecological good. And the reason I think this is because there's one piece of data that leaps out at me that is so large that it seems to put everything else in the shadow. And that is that in the last 20 years alone, the planet has greened by an area factor of 20%. Which is twice as big as the continental United States. Now, that's not all. Not only has it got greener, and a lot greener, the places that got greener were primarily semi-arid areas. In fact, exactly the areas that the climate doomsayers said would turn into outright desert as the planet warmed. Not only were they wrong in the opposite direction. And then we could add to the fact, and this is like straight up NASA data, I'm not making any of this up, that crops themselves, the crops we depend on to eat, have increased their productivity by something approximating 15% along with this additional greening. And so I can understand environmental concern that any rapid transformation of the ecosystem, including the rapid production of carbon dioxide, is something to be alert to, because rapid change, it's difficult for biological systems to adapt to rapid change, let's say. But it seems to me that it's time for people who are not fond of the climate fearmongers to not be apologetic about their opposition. Quite the contrary. Now, I know this is I might be regarded as a rather extreme stance, but I'm curious about what you do think about the climate crisis